So, you seem to believe that tides prove the Earth is a spinning rock, do ya? Alright, let's do that. So the globe people often cite tides as proof the Earth is a globe. They say that it is not possible to have these tides unless the moon is pulling the water on the surface of the Earth. We're going to ignore the fact that on the surface of the Earth, the gravity is much stronger than the alleged gravity on the moon. Instead, what we're going to do is focus on the alleged theory of how tides exist. Let's dig in. According to the Bow Earthers, a tide is simply a bulge of water that the Earth rotates through. They say that the sun holds the bulge of water in place and the Earth simply turns through this water. My very first question about that is, have you ever seen a 1,000-mile-an-hour moving tidal wave? Because you would have to if this theory was correct. Just think about it. They tell you that this Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles an hour. As this Earth rotates, it breaks through the tide being held in place by the moon. And this is where high tides come from, says the globe people. But does that make sense with the observations we can all do? Or is our daily observations going to prove that this is a bunch of nonsense? If you were to do any research at all, you would see that the tides of the Earth are not very consistent. No, globe people, I'm not saying they're not predictable. I'm telling you that they are not consistent. What that means is, when there is a low tide here, there's a medium tide there, and a higher tide up there. But how does that work if the tides are a big bulge of water that the Earth is rotating through? Wouldn't these tides be very consistent? Shouldn't all of these tides be in the same area of the world? Unfortunately for you globe people and your argument, that is not an observable fact. Nope. Instead, it is a fact that we have high tides and low tides in the same exact area. But tides are caused by a massive bulge the Earth rotates into. Which makes absolutely no sense to anybody who thinks about it. So what is it then? What causes the tides that we observe? If you were to look into a leyline map of Earth, this is what you would see. Ley lines are natural energy lines of the Earth. Some of these lines are positive, and some of these lines are negative. Because water is diamagnetic, it is repelled by positive charge, very slightly. And if that's the case, does this look like that? Are these ley lines found in the same exact places as the high tides and the low tides? Go ahead and look into the diamagnetic properties of water, and do try to tell me that tides are not caused by these natural energy lines. Our world is far more beautiful than we've ever been led to believe. Everything that we observe is far more explainable on a flat model than the globe. You just need to look. I love ya. Oh my gosh, guys, I finally saw the argument that convinced me the Earth is a spinning rock in space. It was staring me right in my face the entire time. Oh, I mean freaking literally, you guys. It was staring me in my face. Here, I thought the Earth was flat, when really, the Earth has mountains. You cannot be serious. You really made it all the way to mutual friends with me, and you somehow believe that I'm so stupid I didn't know mountains exist? God knows I try to be nice. The level of stupidity I have to deal with tests my patience. If you guys seriously have a thought like this, please send it to my inbox. Because I have a public page and many people are seeking the truth, if you put something like this on my page and expect me to not respond, you are going to be disappointed. Certainly not trying to offend you. There simply is not a nice way to respond to something like this. Not going to get on my page and mislead my followers with ignorance. Sorry. Love you anyways. You know that gravity is a theory, not a fact. In fact, it is a fact that gravity is not even a good theory. And not only is it not a good theory, but the theory of gravity relies on the theory of dark matter. Yeah, that's right. One theory propping up another theory, but it gets worse. Not only is gravity a bad theory, but it also relies on the theory of relativity. Yeah, that's right. Gravity relies on the theory of dark matter and the theory of relativity for the theory of gravity to even work. This is a visual representation of how gravity works. They say that because this object is bending and warping the space-time around it, it creates a dip in which the other objects roll around the ball. Do you see what's wrong with this? This ball here is sitting on top of the space-time to cause it to warp, which would require an up or a down for this to make sense. But wait, there's more. Not only is gravity a horrible theory that requires two other theories for it to be correct, but gravity is the weakest fundamental force known in existence. Bet you didn't know that. If gravity is weaker than electromagnetism, how is it that the magnetic star known as the Sun is not pulling the Earth into it? The Sun has a magnetic field with two poles, like a bar magnet. The Earth also has two poles, a positive and a negative, like a bar magnet. Let me get this straight. You really expect me to believe that the bogus theory of gravity is what's keeping the Earth orbiting the Sun? Even though gravity is much weaker than the electromagnetic force? Even though the Sun is a magnetic star with a positive and a negative pole just like a bar magnet, and so is the Earth. How is it that you believe that if the Earth and the Sun are both like bar magnets, that they do not attract to each other? How do you explain that gravity is a weaker force than the magnetic force of the Sun and the Earth? What kind of bogus theory are you going to add to the ridiculous theory of gravity? You're really going to pretend like two magnets the size of the Sun and the Earth could orbit around each other because of gravity, but never come crashing into each other because of the magnetic pole? Gravity the weaker force, the electromagnetic force being the stronger force, but it's gravity keeping the Earth orbiting the Sun. Please do respond with the ridiculous theory you are going to come up with. Dying to hear your response. Love you anyways. Even though I know you don't really care, I'm gonna show you anyways. This here would represent the realm we call Earth. This green line right here is the inertia plane of existence. This is where we exist. This above us is the atmosphere, and this right here is the negative force you call gravity. If you were to look into what a magnetic field actually looks like, what you would see is it moves exactly how our stars move. Many of you call this as above, so below. Basically, the top half here would be the positive, and the bottom half here would be the negative. You're all right here on the inertia plane of existence in between the positive and the negative of the bar magnet. I am certain that you will find a way to disagree with this, and that's perfectly okay with me. You could go ahead and believe that you're an evolved monkey spinning around on a space rock causing cancer to the Earth. I will choose to understand that we are all a beautiful creation, that every one of you have a purpose, that this realm that we call Earth is far greater than anything we've ever thought. You are an energetic being, so be energetic. I love you. Ask a globe earther, how does the high pressure system of Earth exist next to the low pressure system of space? They're going to tell you gravity. If you ask a globe earther, how does an airplane follow the curve of the Earth while it is flying at a level altitude, they will tell you gravity. If you were to ask a globe earther how trillions of gallons of water could stick to a spinning ball, they're going to tell you gravity. If you were to ask a globe earther, how does a rock the quarter size of the Earth float over your head, they will say gravity. If you ask what keeps you sticking to a spinning ball in space, the globe earthers will say gravity. If you were to ask a globe earther, how do we have tides, they would again tell you gravity. These people will constantly use this indoctrination here to explain away all of the nonsense you'd have to believe to think you are a spinning rock in space. They just take the indoctrination for face value, and they don't even question whether or not this magical force of gravity could actually do all of the things that they think it is doing. Something that most globe earthers don't know about this one right here. That would be that gravity is the weakest of the four fundamental forces. Yeah, that's right. Gravity is the weakest of all of the fundamental forces. It says here electromagnetic force is number 2, next to the strong nuclear force. And even though gravity is the weakest of all of these forces, they credit gravity for holding the Earth in orbit. But why does that not make any sense? Well, that would be because allegedly the sun's magnetic field does not affect the Earth. Even though the electromagnetic force of the sun is stronger than gravity, we are allegedly being held in place by this gravity, all while the sun's magnetic field does not affect us at all. But does that make any sense to you? This gravity keeps us orbiting the sun, even though the sun's magnetic field has two poles like a bar magnet. And even though the electromagnetic force of the sun would be stronger than gravity, even though the sun is a magnetic star, and the Earth's surface is both positive and negatively charged. What do you guys know about magnets? Do opposing ends of magnets stick together? Of course they do. And if the electromagnetic force of the sun is stronger than the gravity of the sun, why is the magnetic star known as the sun not pulling the Earth into the sun when we get closer to it? Just think about it. This is the Globe Earthers' favorite excuse for everything. Even though gravity goes against their own model, they will say gravity. How does a Globe Earther explain that? Kinda like this.
What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question. Wow.
Okay, question. How is it that yesterday 99% of the world's population experienced daylight at the same time? Did we not grow up in a world where we were taught that China was on the other side of the Earth? And if China is on the other side of the Earth, how is it that we were sharing daylight at the same exact time as China? Does this make any sense to you? If you were to look up what time this happened, it was 11:15 UTC on July 8th. Cannot change the minutes, but I got it as close as possible to the accurate time. What we see here is a small local sun placed over Africa. Globe people, why do they show you a small local sun if the sun is millions of miles away? Just another question for you. This is the entire map of the Earth that received daylight at the same exact time. With the alleged tilt of the Earth, the sun would still somehow be over Central Africa. As you can tell, I could come pretty close to making this work, but I can't get all of Africa to receive daylight at the same time as all of North America, all of Asia, all of Russia, and all of Europe. As a matter of fact, you could see down here where the nighttime would begin. Unfortunately for the globe model, the eastern half of Africa is not even close to nighttime, but it would have to be for this to even work. If we attempt to align this terminator line on this model, it would be roughly in this location. As you can tell, we could only see Africa, Europe, Russia, and Asia. And if I attempt to bring America into focus, what you're going to see is not only does that terminator line change, but Africa also gets closer to the nighttime. Unfortunately, the terminator line does not show an accurate representation of day and night. It just does not work. No matter how you try and spin it, you will never get the majority of the entire Earth to receive daylight at the same time. Not on this model. But what does it look like on the flat Earth model? Well, it would look like this. Because the flat Earth encourages questioning, you can position the sun anywhere you want, so you could compare it to the daylight we actually received. And would you look at that, 99% of the entire world is lit by the sun. And that only works here on the flat Earth model. I went ahead and moved the sun just a little bit to show you that the terminator line is exactly where it's supposed to be. The daylight that we received yesterday only works on a flat Earth model. So tell me, if the globe Earth is really that obvious, why do you represent all of your daylight maps on a flat model? Why is it when they represent the daylight of your globe Earth, not only represent it on a 2D model, but they make the sun small and local? That is called mockery. They think you're dumb. Wakey wakey. Alright, what we have here is one globe Earther super excited to discredit the rest of the globe Earthers. Yeah, that's right. The globe Earthers who always say flat Earthers don't agree are more than excited to discredit each other. Says, where should I start? Well, you could start by explaining how 50% of the entire Earth is supposed to get daytime and 50% of the entire Earth is supposed to get nighttime. It says right here that one half of the Earth is always in darkness. this is your model's explanation for day and night. Why are you so excited to discredit this? Or do you somehow believe that the amount of darkness we received on Friday is 50% of the Earth? So I'm about to show you how wrong you are. I am 100% positive that this would be your response. We'll go ahead and show the world a photo like this and say, see, it's totally possible. You're gonna say that while you completely and utterly ignore the fact that that is not half of the Earth. And I'm gonna show you. Not only am I going to show you how this is not half of the Earth, I am going to reveal you and the rest of the globe earthers for the deceivers that they are. You will openly and knowingly tell the world that this is half of the Earth, saying it is possible that all of that daylight happened on Friday. You will do this because you remain willfully ignorant to the facts yourself. Maybe you're not purposely trying to deceive the world. That's exactly what you are doing. If you are going to try to tell me that this is half of the Earth, then you're going to have to also explain to me how this half of the Earth does not have America in it. And go ahead and try to explain to me how this half of the Earth doesn't have Africa in it. Because, according to the observable fact, this and this all received daylight at the same exact time. All while this was the only darkness on the Earth. And if half of the entire Earth is supposed to be dark at once, how is it that you people don't understand that what you are seeing is not half of the Earth? Even though the sun is 94 million miles away, on the daylight map of the Earth, they so elegantly placed the sun right there over Africa. And with the sun being right there over Africa, it was not only able to light all of this, but it also lit all of that. If the sun being directly over Africa could light all of this, but none of this, well then that means that the consensus that half of the Earth experiences nighttime is completely and utterly wrong. And you were super excited to try and discredit that. Even though you people say that we can't agree with each other. You guys can't even agree what half of the Earth would be. If you dig through in America, you get to China because it's on the other side of the globe. But these two locations can receive sunlight at the same exact time. It does not matter how you spin it. You can never make all of the light fit on your model. Wakey wakey, I love ya. So, you seem to believe that all of this daylight is possible on your globe Earth, do ya? Alright, let's do that. Now, I don't believe that this one here is purposely trying to deceive the world, but the people he gets his information from definitely are. I just think that he doesn't understand the situation entirely. So let me fix that. According to your own science, half of the entire Earth is at night and the other half is during the day. It says that at any point in time, half is night and half is day. Clearly, the daylight part of this map here is not half of the Earth. But for the sake of your argument, let's pretend like it is. I have seen the ridiculous claim of the globe earthers that you could light up this much of the map. But can you make that much of the map nighttime? Because according to your science, if this is half of the Earth, then 12 hours later, this here would be nighttime. But is it? With absolutely no trouble, I'm about to completely and utterly kill your argument. Because your globular Earth allegedly rotates once per day on its axis, when I hit the plus 12 hours button, the day and night on this map should flip. But is that the case? And if day and night do not switch here on this map, are you going to admit that your globe is a lie? Probably not, but let's try anyways. Alright, so here we have the time and date in question. As you can clearly see, most of the land masses on Earth are lit. And if your globe model is correct, when I add 12 hours to this map, the day and night time represented here should flip places. There is no arguing this. They would have to switch places because according to your own model, half of your Earth is day and the other half is night. And if that's the case, if I add 12 hours to this map, the day and night should switch places. Because remember, daytime's allegedly half of the globe Earth. And because your ball Earth rotates once per day, if we add 12 hours to this map, we should see half of the Earth at nighttime. Globe Earthers, does that look like half the Earth is at night? If half the Earth is supposed to be day and half is supposed to be night, how come this shadow Doesn't take up as much space as this light. Unfortunate thing for your argument is all of that daylight does not turn into nighttime. As you can tell from this demonstration, the amount of nighttime and daytime on a flat Earth lines up perfectly with what we observe in reality. Go ahead and compare the daylight on this model to the actual observations made on Friday. We'll see that not only does the daylight match up perfectly, but the nighttime does as well. You guys love to ignore half of the facts in your rebuttal. Just gonna ignore the night half of your globe model? Love you anyways. Alright, Globe Earthers, I've got another problem with your model. You guys love to question how would the sun change speeds on a flat Earth. You say these things while you completely ignore the fact that your globe Earth moves at a constant rate, even though the surface speed of the equator is much faster than the surface speed of the poles. In fact, on your globe Earth, it doesn't matter how high you go, everything is in fact moving at the same exact rate. So a helicopter hovering at 10,000 feet above the surface of the Earth would get dragged sideways with the motion of the Earth at the same exact rate as if that helicopter was sitting on the surface. But did you know that on your globe Earth model, the higher you go off of the surface of the Earth, the faster you would have to go to maintain your correlation with the surface of the Earth? You don't follow. The further you get off of the surface of the Earth, the more distance you actually have to travel to maintain your position over the ground. How does that work if gravity is stronger on the surface than it is up in the air? How is it that the air moves constant with your globe Earth, even though the air up higher would need to move at a faster rate than the air on the surface? If gravity is much stronger on the surface of the Earth, how is it that this is even possible? How is it that as an airplane travels north to south, it is actually traveling faster east to west than it is in the direction it is flying? Because on your model, you are saying that an airplane is in fact traveling faster with the spin of the Earth than in the direction it is actually flying. If that airplane is 30,000 feet off of the surface of the Earth, how is it moving at the same rate as the ground beneath it? If your bogus theory about how the atmosphere gets drugged by the gravity of the Earth were correct, the further you get off of the surface of the Earth, the less that gravity would be affecting the air, therefore the airspeed on the ground would be much faster than the airspeed up high. But according to your own model, it doesn't matter how far away you get from the surface of the Earth, you will always move at the same exact speed as the ground beneath you. I am very curious if any of you are even going to be able to understand this argument. I think maybe 1% of you might understand this argument, but 100% of you will deny this. You will maintain your indoctrinated stance that this big spinning ball in space is able to drag the atmosphere faster further away from the surface than it does on the surface of the Earth because inertia. That gravity stuff sure is a fickle force. Closer to the source of gravity, you move slower. Farther from the source, you move faster. Makes tons of sense. And you can't explain it? Just blame gravity. I love ya. What's going on, Tony? Because you're such an amazing person, I am going to put a nail in that argument right now. The Globe Earthers are knowingly deceiving you with this optical illusion that they don't even want you to think about. They really expect you to believe that the spinning of the southern stars is only possible if the Earth was a spinning rock. But is that the case? Is there a far greater explanation to this than they want you to know? Let's dig in. For this experiment, I'm going to turn to my clock. Pretend as if the middle part of my clock would be the northern hemisphere, and the southern part of my clock would be the southern hemisphere. And this is our observer. If our observer is facing the North Pole, the stars leave from the left and would come from the right. Now, if my observer is in the southern hemisphere looking south, the stars would come in from their left and leave out the right. This minute hand does not change directions. It is an optical illusion. It leaves through the left, would come back from the right, it would come in from the left, and leave from the right And not only is this the case on a flat surface, but this is also an optical illusion that you would experience if the Earth were a globe. Let me show you that one. This wonderful hunk of junk would only be turning this direction. If you were standing on this bogus model looking north, the Earth would appear to move in one direction. Even if I'm in the southern hemisphere and I maintain my northern direction, the Earth still moves in the same direction. It is not until you face south on this globular model that this Earth is now appearing to move in the other direction. As you can tell, the Earth went from left to right to left just by changing my perspective. They call that an optical illusion. I have not met one single globe person ever who understands that the Earth is moving in one direction, but it is an optical illusion by changing the direction in which you are looking that changes the direction of the stars. The fact that these people are trying so hard to convince you that what you are seeing is only possible on a globe and not giving you all of the possibilities just goes to show you the level of deception we are dealing with. I showed you exactly how this would work on a flat surface and on this bogus excuse for a model. These people figured out how our perspective works and they're using it to fool us. Not only are they using our perspective to fool us, they have also invaded our education and they're filling our head with indoctrinated nonsense that doesn't work in real life. Sounds good in theory, but it doesn't work in real life. The very fact that they're only giving you one possibility and not showing you how it would work on both models is deception. It is clear intent to deceive you. We're getting really close. Sure, someday you'll be part of the Flat Earth family. I love ya. You seem to believe that tides prove the Earth is a spinning rock, do ya? Alright. Let's do that. So the globe people often cite tides as proof the Earth is a globe. They say that it is not possible to have these tides unless the moon is pulling the water on the surface of the Earth. We're going to ignore the fact that on the surface of the Earth, the gravity is much stronger than the alleged gravity on the moon. Instead, what we're going to do is focus on the alleged theory of how tides exist. Let's dig in. According to the Bowel Earthers, a tide is simply a bulge of water that the Earth rotates through. They say that the sun holds the bulge of water in place and the Earth simply turns through this water. My very first question about that is, have you ever seen a 1,000-mile-an-hour moving tidal wave? Because you would have to if this theory was correct. Just think about it. They tell you that this Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles an hour. As this Earth rotates, it breaks through the tide being held in place by the moon. And this is where high tides come from, says the globe people. But does that make sense with the observations we can all do? Or is our daily observations going to prove that this is a bunch of nonsense? If you were to do any research at all, you would see that the tides of the Earth are not very consistent. No, globe people, I'm not saying they're not predictable. I'm telling you that they are not consistent. What that means is when there is a low tide here, there's a medium tide there, and a higher tide up there. But how does that work if the tides are a big bulge of water that the Earth is rotating through? Wouldn't these tides be very consistent? Couldn't all of these tides be in the same area of the world? Unfortunately for you globe people and your argument, that is not an observable fact. Nope. Instead, it is a fact that we have high tides and low tides in the same exact area. But tides are caused by a massive bulge the Earth rotates into. Which makes absolutely no sense to anybody who thinks about it. So what is it then? What causes the tides that we observe? If you were to look into a ley line map of Earth, this is what you would see. Ley lines are natural energy lines of the Earth. Some of these lines are positive, and some of these lines are negative. Because water is diamagnetic, it is repelled by positive charge, very slightly. And if that's the case, does this look like that? Are these ley lines found in the same exact places as the high tides and the low tides? Go ahead and look into the diamagnetic properties of water, and do try to tell me that tides are not caused by these natural energy lines. Our world is far more beautiful than we've ever been led to believe. Everything that we observe is far more explainable on a flat model than the globe. You just need to look. I love ya.